All right, so everyone wants to be a good person, right? But, like, what does that even mean?
Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into today.
We're tackling one of the heavy hitters this time, Aristotle.
Specifically, his thoughts on virtue and character from his Nicomachean Ethics.
Yeah. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Aristotle sounds a little, intimidating.
Maybe a little dry.
Yeah, like something you'd find in a dusty old philosophy textbook.
Right, exactly.
But trust me on this.
His ideas are actually super relevant to how we live, like even today.
Yeah, and I think you'll be surprised to hear this.
He's not about giving you a set of rules.
It's not like a do this, don't do that kind of
It's
thing.
way more interesting.
It's like he's your personal character coach.
Yeah, I like that.
So, are you ready to get started with this deep dive?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, so first things first.
When Aristotle talks about living a good life,
Right.
he's not talking about, just being happy all the time.
Right.
He uses this word eudaimonia.
Okay, yeah, we touched on that last time.
Yeah.
Eudaimonia. Can you remind us what that really means?
It's often translated as flourishing,
Okay.
but it's more than just feeling good.
Like it's deeper than just happiness.
Way deeper. It's about living a life that's in accordance with your true purpose and values.
So, like, actually fulfilling your potential as a human being.
Exactly. And Aristotle believed that was the ultimate goal, like the thing we should all be striving for.
Okay, so eudaimonia is the goal.
The goal, yes.
But how do we get there?
That's where virtue comes in.
Virtue, okay.
This is a big one for Aristotle.
So, to be clear, we're not talking about, like, someone who's just super duper nice all the time.
No, not at all. It's not about being a goody two-shoes.
So, what is it about them? What's Aristotle's take on virtue?
For him, virtue it's like a skill.
A skill. Okay,
Yeah.
so you're saying it's not something you're just born with.
Exactly. You don't just magically pop out of the womb virtuous.
So we're not talking about, like, being born good or bad.
Nope. He saw it as something you develop, something you practice, like learning an instrument.
I like that analogy. That's really helpful. So we're all basically works in progress when it comes to virtue.
Exactly. We all have the potential for both virtue and vice within us.
Okay, so where do we even begin if we want to cultivate virtue?
Well, first, it's important to know that Aristotle made a distinction between two types of virtues.
Oh, two types. Tell me more about that.
So you have intellectual virtues,
Okay.
things like wisdom and knowledge, and then you have moral virtue.
Moral virtues. Okay.
And those are the ones we're focusing on today.
Right. So moral virtues are about how we act in the world, how we treat others and ourselves, right?
Yeah. And those are the ones we can, actively work on developing.
Got it. So this whole idea of the golden mean, does that fit in here somewhere?
Absolutely. The golden mean is like a core principle in Aristotle's ethics.
I think a lot of people have heard that term before.
Yeah.
But maybe not everyone really gets what it actually means.
You're probably right about that. Basically, the golden mean is about finding balance.
Balance.
Yeah, so Aristotle believed that every virtue lies between two extremes.
Okay, like two opposite ends of a spectrum.
Exactly. There's the excess of something and the deficiency of something.
Okay, can you give us an example? I'm a little lost.
Sure, let's take courage, for example.
Okay, courage. Everyone loves a good hero, right?
Right, so courage is the virtue.
Okay.
But on one end of the spectrum, you have recklessness.
Recklessness, that's like too much courage.
Too much, yeah. Like jumping into dangerous situations without thinking.
Okay, makes sense. So what's on the other end of the spectrum?
Cowardice.
Oh, so that's not enough courage.
Yeah, it's like being paralyzed by fear. You never take any risks.
So true courage is somewhere in between being reckless and being a coward.
You got it. It's about finding that sweet spot in the middle.
Okay, this is starting to make sense.
Good, good.
So it's not like there's this one-size-fits-all formula for being courageous.
Right. Context matters a lot. Like what might be courageous in one situation
Yeah.
might be totally reckless in another.
So how do we know where that middle ground is?
That's where phronesis comes in.
Phronesis. Now there's another new word.
I know. Lots of fancy Greek terms today.
So what is phronesis exactly?
It's often translated as practical wisdom.
Practical wisdom. Okay.
Yeah, and it basically means having the judgment to know the right course of action in a specific situation.
Oh, I see. So it's not just about knowing what's right in theory.
Right. It's about knowing how to apply that knowledge in the real world.
Okay, that sounds tricky, like way more complex than just memorizing a list of rules.
It is, but don't worry, we're going to dive deeper into phronesis later on.
Looking forward to that. So we have this goal, eudaimonia.
Yes.
We need to cultivate these virtues.
Right.
And there's this idea of the golden mean and finding that balance.
Exactly.
But, like, how does this all play out in everyday life? Can you give me some concrete examples?
Absolutely. Let's stick with courage for a second.
Okay.
Say you see someone being bullied.
Oh, okay.
What would a reckless person do?
Well, they'd probably jump in without thinking.
Right. Maybe get into a fight or escalate the situation.
What about a coward? What would they do?
They might just walk away.
Pretend they didn't see anything.
Exactly. So what would a courageous person do?
That's a good question. It's not as obvious.
It takes phronesis to figure that out. Maybe they assess the situation,
Okay.
see if they can safely intervene verbally.
Right.
Maybe they go get help from an adult.
Okay.
It's about responding in a way that's both brave and prudent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Like you're considering the context, thinking about the potential risks and benefits,
Right.
and then choosing the action that aligns best with virtue.
Exactly.
Are there other examples like this?
Oh, tons. Take generosity, for example.
Generosity.
Yeah. Another big one for Aristotle. He said true generosity is finding that balance between being stingy, you know,
Yeah.
and being extravagant.
So like a Scrooge versus, I don't know, like a super spender.
Exactly. It's not about throwing money around carelessly or hoarding everything you have.
So if I'm always buying extravagant gifts, but then can't pay my rent.
Right. That's not true generosity.
That makes sense. And what about if I donate a ton of money to charity, but I'm only doing it for a tax break?
Exactly. It's not just about the amount you give, it's about the intention behind it.
Aristotle would say that's not true generosity either.
Nope, not at all. True generosity comes from a genuine desire to benefit others.
Okay, this is really starting to click for me now.
Good.
So we have to figure out where this golden mean is in different areas of our lives.
Right.
And then we have to practice acting in accordance with that.
Yes.
It all seems kind of tricky, though.
It definitely takes some effort.
It's not easy to find that balance.
You're right. It's not a simple formula. That's why we need to cultivate that practical wisdom.
That phronesis.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see why that's so important.
It is, and that's what we'll dive into next time. Like, how do we actually get better at finding that golden mean?
Okay, can't wait for that. This is really making me think about my own life and the choices I make every day. It's a lot to process.
That's great. I'm glad you're finding it thought-provoking.
Me too. I'm already looking forward to our next deep dive.
Me too. It's going to be good.
All right, so last time we were talking about like all these different virtues and finding that golden mean.
Right. That sweet spot between the extremes.
Yeah, but it was all kind of theoretical, you know?
Sure, we needed to lay the groundwork.
Yeah. But like, how do we actually put this stuff into practice? Because real life is messy.
You're telling me.
It's not always clear like what the virtuous thing to do is in every situation.
You're absolutely right. It's not just about knowing what courage or generosity is.
Yeah.
It's about having the judgment to actually act courageously or generously in, a specific situation.
Right, exactly. That's where phronesis comes in, right?
Bingo. Practical wisdom.
The mouthful.
It is.
But so important. So can we like unpack that a little bit? How do we cultivate phronesis?
Well, think of it this way.
Okay.
You could have all the best tools in a workshop,
Okay.
but if you don't know how to use them, they're useless.
Just pieces of metal. Yeah.
Exactly. Phronesis is like the skill
Oh, okay.
that allows you to actually use the tools, the virtues, effectively.
I like that. So it's not like we just wake up one day and we've got phronesis.
I wish it were that easy.
Right. It takes time.
It does. You got to hone it through experience.
So making mistakes is part of the process.
Absolutely. Learning from your mistakes is crucial.
That makes me feel a little better.
Good. It should. Because nobody's born with perfect phronesis.
So are there things we can do to develop it?
Definitely. Remember how Aristotle talked about virtue being like a skill?
Yeah.
It's the same with phronesis.
Like we need to practice.
Exactly. And one of the best ways to practice is by learning from people who already have it.
Oh, I see. So mentors and role models.
Exactly. Aristotle believed that observing and emulating those who already possess virtue is one of the best ways to learn.
Like watching how they act, how they handle different situations.
Precisely. Think about an apprentice learning a craft.
Oh, okay.
They watch the master, they listen, they imitate.
Right. They pick up the tricks of the trade.
Exactly. And gradually, they develop their own skill. It's the same with virtue.
It makes me think about how much we learn just by watching others, even if we don't realize it.
That's true. Like if you grew up around people who are super generous,
Yeah.
you're more likely to be generous yourself.
It makes sense. So we can learn from people we know personally?
Yes, but also from people we don't know.
Like from history?
Yes, historical figures, literary characters, even fictional heroes.
So I could learn about courage by reading about, like, Nelson Mandela.
Exactly.
Or, like, watching a movie about a superhero.
Sure, they can inspire us,
Yeah.
show us what virtue looks like the action.
So we kind of get a roadmap.
Exactly. But there's another layer here, something people often forget.
Ooh, okay, what's that?
The role of society.
Oh, okay.
Aristotle knew that what's considered virtuous in one culture might not be in another.
That makes sense. Like, different cultures have different values.
Exactly. So phronesis also involves understanding the social context you're in.
Right, because what's considered polite in one culture could be rude in another.
Exactly. It can get pretty tricky.
So how do we know what to do when our sense of virtue, like, clashes with what society says?
That's a tough one. It's not about blindly following the rules.
Right, got it.
It's about finding that balance.
So honoring our culture's wisdom.
Yes. but also staying true to our own moral compass.
Even if that means going against the grain sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. It takes real courage to stand up for what you believe in, especially when it's unpopular.
That makes me think of all those people throughout history who fought for what was right, even when everyone was against them.
Exactly. Those are great examples of Aristotelian virtue in action.
It's inspiring.
It is. But remember, courage isn't just about those big heroic acts.
What else is it about?
It's about the small choices we make every single day
Oh, okay.
to live according to our values, even when it's tough.
So, like, speaking up when someone tells an offensive joke,
Exactly. Or refusing to participate in gossip.
even if it means you're not the cool kid anymore.
Exactly. It's those little choices that add up.
Yeah, they shape our character over time.
They do. But look, we're all human.
Yeah,
We all make mistakes. We fall short sometimes.
totally. Like, I know I should be more patient with my kids,
Yeah,
but sometimes I just lose it.
I think we've all been there.
Right. It makes me feel like such a hypocrite.
You know, you're not alone in that. Aristotle knew that none of us are perfect.
Oh, good.
The important thing is to view those mistakes as opportunities.
Oh.
To learn and grow.
So instead of beating myself up over it,
Right.
I should try to figure out what triggered me.
Yes. And how you could handle the situation differently next time.
That's actually really helpful advice.
Good. It's all about progress, not perfection.
So we're always working on it.
Always. Remember, virtue is a habit,
Right.
and habits take time to develop.
That's true. So does that mean our upbringing, like our childhood environment, matters a lot?
It absolutely does. Early experiences are huge.
What about people who didn't have great role models growing up or made some bad choices in the past?
It might be harder for them,
Yeah.
but it's never too late to change.
Oh, that's good to hear.
We can always choose to cultivate virtue.
Even if we're starting a little later in the game.
Exactly. It's about taking responsibility for our actions.
Okay, this is making me think about personal growth in a whole new way.
Good. It's not just about achieving goals.
It's about who we're being along the way.
Yes, it's about cultivating those inner qualities.
This is so insightful.
I'm glad you're enjoying it. We're just scratching the surface here, though.
Oh, there's more.
So much more.
I'm ready.
Next time, let's tackle some of the misconceptions about Aristotle.
Okay.
People think he's all rigid and rule-bound.
Yeah, kind of a stick in the mud.
Right. But his approach is actually way more nuanced than that.
Okay, so we're going to debunk some myths.
We are.
Awesome. I'm really enjoying this deep dive.
Me too.
Okay, so much to think about. We've talked about these virtues, finding that balance, the golden mean,
Right.
even how what's virtuous can be different in different cultures.
Exactly.
But I'm thinking, like, how do we actually live this stuff? It's one thing to talk about it,
Right.
but real life is a whole other thing.
It is. It's messy. It's not like there's a rule book.
Exactly. So how do we actually, put these ideas into practice?
Well, it's like learning a language.
Okay.
You can learn all the vocabulary,
Right.
the grammar rules,
Yeah.
but then you go to like France,
Right.
and you got to actually speak French.
Yeah, suddenly it's real. No more textbook.
Exactly. And it's the same with virtue. You got to practice.
So we can't just, like, read about it and expect to be a virtuous.
No, not really. You got to live it. Make the mistakes. Learn from them.
Okay, so where do we even begin? Is there, like, a virtue for dummies guide?
I wish. No, but Aristotle does give us some helpful tips.
Okay, good. Like what?
First, don't try to do everything at once.
Oh, okay.
Don't try to be, like, perfectly virtuous in every area of your life all at once. It's too much.
Yeah, that makes sense. So start small.
Exactly. Pick one virtue to focus on.
Okay, so, like, if I want to be more patient.
Yes, focus on that.
Okay.
And then think about those everyday situations
Yeah.
where you tend to, like, lose your patience.
Okay, I see what you mean. Like, for me, it's definitely traffic.
There you go. So, you get impatient in traffic.
Right.
Next time you're stuck in traffic,
Yeah.
catch yourself in that moment.
Okay.
Take a deep breath.
Instead of honking the horn.
Exactly. Remind yourself that it's a temporary situation.
Yeah, this too shall pass.
Right. Try to respond with patience.
So it's about making a different choice in those moments.
Yes. It's about creating a new habit.
That makes sense. And this is something we can do, like, every day.
Absolutely. Every day is a chance to practice virtue. And look, you're going to mess up sometimes.
Oh, I know I will.
It's normal. Don't beat yourself up about it. Just keep practicing.
Okay, that's good to know. Because it's easy to get discouraged when you don't see results right away.
It is. But remember, we're talking about character development here.
Right.
That takes time.
It's like building a muscle, right?
Exactly. You don't just walk into the gym and bench press 300 pounds.
Right. It takes work and consistency. It makes me think about all those people we admire,
Oh, yeah.
the ones who just seem to radiate goodness and virtue.
Yeah.
Do you think they were just born that way?
I doubt it.
Yeah. They probably faced their own struggles, right? Made mistakes.
Definitely. I think that's why role models can be so powerful.
You mean learning from people who already embody the virtues we're trying to cultivate?
Exactly. It's like having a guide, a mentor.
Even if they're not, like, physically there with us?
Exactly. Whether it's someone from history or a spiritual leader or even, a fictional character.
Yeah. Okay.
Their stories can inspire us.
Give us a roadmap of sorts.
Yes, they show us what's possible.
So how do we find these role models? Just start reading biographies.
That's a good place to start. But also look around you. Pay attention to the people in your life
Oh, yeah.
who are already living virtuously.
Like everyday heroes.
Exactly. It could be a friend, a family member, a colleague. Observe them. Learn from them.
That's a good point. Sometimes we forget about the amazing people right in front of us.
We do. But what about when things get tough? When we feel like we're falling short?
Yeah, how do we stay motivated on this journey?
Well, I think it helps to surround yourself with good people.
Okay, so like a support system.
Yes, people who share your values.
Who are also trying to be better.
Exactly. You can encourage each other.
Hold each other accountable.
Yes. Celebrate your successes together.
That's a great idea, like a virtue squad.
I love that. And don't forget about self-reflection.
Oh, yeah, that's important too.
Take some time every day to, pause and check in with yourself.
Okay. Ask yourself, like, how did I do today?
Exactly. Did you live up to your values? Where did you fall short? What could you do differently tomorrow?
That's a good practice. I should try that.
It really helps. It keeps you on track.
Okay, so we got a lot to work with here. Focus on one virtue at a time.
Yes.
Find role models.
Yes.
Get ourselves a virtue squad.
Love it.
Practice self-reflection.
You got it. It does sound like a lot, right?
It does, but it's exciting too.
That's the spirit. And remember, it's a journey.
Not a destination.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You'll never reach a point where you're like, okay, I'm done. I'm perfectly virtuous now.
So we just keep growing, keep getting better.
Exactly. And as we do that, we not only improve our own lives,
Yeah.
we make the world a better place.
I like that. We contribute to the greater good.
Exactly. So to all our listeners out there,
Yeah. Join us on this journey.
it's worth it.
It is. It might not always be easy.
True, but it's so rewarding.
Absolutely. Pick a virtue, find your role models, get yourself a virtue squad, and keep practicing.
Keep learning, keep growing.
And keep diving deep. We'll see you next time.